Before he died, Scott Baldwin told us that he knew there were others like him out there in the Michigan prison system. Others who were convicted by the Kalamazoo Cold Case Team, but who were innocent.
How many other cold cases or people are going to come forward and go, hey man, you need to look at my shit because I didn't do it. How many others are going to do that? How many more do we have?
We already know Jeff Titus was wrongly convicted by the Cold Case Team. And if it's just Jeff, well then, that's tragic, but these things happen. But if it's not just Jeff, if there are more cases that the Cold Case Team got wrong, then we're no longer talking about an isolated event. That's why Scott thinks the system couldn't accept that he was innocent too. Because if he was, then what the hell happened in Kalamazoo? What had the Cold Case Team done?
Look how many cases they solved in that short a period of time. And how many have questions. I believe they're afraid of what they're about to open up. It's going to cause a flood effect. And that means they have to point one hell of a big finger at somebody and say, yeah, this was wrong.
As you've heard this season, we have questions about many of the Kalamazoo cold cases. But what happened in the Cold Case Team's final investigation may be the most troubling case of all.
There was what was in Kalamazoo called the Polderman murders, another cold case.
The Polderman case was a horrific triple homicide of 3 senior citizens slaughtered in their own home. It went unsolved for 7 years. But then the Cold Case Team took over and broke the case wide open. Not only did they convict someone for the murders, they convicted 5 someones, based on a story that is contradicted by everything found at the crime scene and by all the physical evidence.
What do you know about the Polderman case?
Joe Williams was one of the guys that was convicted of it, and Joe was here. We called him Joe Dirt, actually, was his nickname. He looked like Joe Dirt.
The guy you knew, Joe Dirt, did he admit to it, or did he say he was innocent?
He said he was innocent. He got set up by people, that Ricky set him up. He's like, I had nothing to do with it. Everybody's saying Ricky did it.
The Ricky that Scott's talking about here is Richard Vendeville. We know from police files that Vendeville was in fact an informant for cold case detective Mike Workema. Though in prison, Vendeville had told Scott a slightly different version of that story.
He told me that he was confronted by Workema and told about a couple cases and told to go get information about those cases and report it back to him, and he said he couldn't do that. That would be snitching or ratting.
Do you think he did? Do you think he was a CI?
Oh, I know he did.
Vendeville did give information on several different cold cases. And in February of 2007, he gave info on the Polderman case, a case where he himself had been the lead suspect for 5 years. Prosecutor Scott Brower gave him use immunity to do so. That meant what he said could never be used against him, but it could be used against whoever he accused. That's when Vendeville told detectives the 5 people who had committed the crime. And how, you might ask, did Vendeville know who had killed the Poldermans? Well, cold case detective Rich Madison explained.
He was there. He admitted that he had ridden out there on a dirt bike and watched from a distance and had turned them on to it.
Vendeville told detectives that on the day of the murders, he had secretly followed the 5 defendants to the Polderman's house. That's how he knew they'd done it. Since Vendeville was an eyewitness, you'd think he would have been called to testify at trial, but he didn't appear at a single proceeding in the Polderman case. Instead, the prosecution's case was based entirely on the Polderman defendants' own statements, their own words. Because detectives had interrogated the 5 people Vendeville named again and again, until, by the end, 4 of them had confessed. The methods by which detectives got these confessions are alarming in themselves. But just as alarming is how the detectives either didn't notice or didn't care that the confessions made no sense.
I want to die in prison for something I didn't fucking do.
No, you're not going to die in prison for something you didn't do.
You guys don't understand.
I don't understand either, Joe, but we're going to get you out. You didn't do anything. okay?
No, it's not okay. I'm not okay neither.
This episode is the story of the Kalamazoo Cold Case Team's final investigation, and how a wild tale told by an unreliable informant led to 5 convictions that never should have happened. I'm Susan Simpson.
And I'm Jacinda Davis.
I'm an attorney and investigator.
And I'm a true crime TV producer.
And this is Proof Season 3, Murder at the Bike Shop. Proof is a Red Marble Media production in association with Glassbox Media.
New episodes are released on Mondays, and on Thursdays you can catch our sidebar episodes where we talk about the case, talk to guests, and tell you more about what's going on behind the scenes.
This is Episode 9, The Dilemma.
Do you understand how long 18 years is? It's 18 years ahead.
That's Joe Williams. He's currently serving 3 life sentences, plus another 14 years for perjury, for denying under oath that he'd committed the Polderman murders.
Every day is a new struggle, just to wake up and try to fight. And then knowing that almost every path I take ends up being a dead end.
Did you have anything to do with the Polderman murders?
No, absolutely not. I'm allowed to say, but that's not one of them. I was a drug addict and a thief, but I'm not a killer.
Joe had a drug addiction and a history of funding it by shoplifting, stealing out of cars, and committing retail fraud. Nothing like murder, nothing violent, but he'd been in jail before. In fact, he went to jail for check forgery a couple weeks before he became a suspect in this case. So all of his phone calls were recorded. We can hear his reactions in real time to what was happening to him, like when he called his mom after finding out he was now a suspect in the Polderman murders.
It's all kinds of bullshit. I don't know what the fuck's the truth. I'm being accused of the most heinous crime in the history of fucking Kalamazoo, ever. They've told me this is the most horrible thing to happen to Kalamazoo.
But you weren't in there.
I know this, but they don't. How the fuck am I going to prove it? I have no alibi.
The Polderman case was one of the most heinous cases in Kalamazoo history. 3 senior citizens brutally killed in their own home in the middle of the day, and the case had gone cold for 7 years. There was a lot of pressure on the police to get it solved. Here's prosecutor Scott Brower in one of his opening statements, explaining how the 5 defendants had initially got away with the crime, but finally got caught.
A wall of lies and deceits had been built to hide the truth. But the police were able to chip away at the wall. Their secret had been this: that the 5 of them had planned the home invasion of the Polderman home, that they brought weapons with them, and that they were responsible for unmercifully beating and stabbing to death 93-year-old Marinus Polderman, his 91-year-old wife, Sary, and their 62-year-old daughter, Anna Lewis.
That wall of lies and silence had finally broken when 4 of the 5 defendants confessed to the murders. That's how the arrests were made. But were those confessions actually true?
It's hard to believe that 4 people would falsely confess, I guess, but
It's happened before.
it's happened before.
That's Olivia Vigiletti from the Michigan Innocence Clinic. She's Scott Baldwin's attorney and also the attorney for Joe Williams.
There's all these different reasons people falsely confess, and it's happened many times in really brutal cases like this, where you wouldn't think they would confess to something so heinous.
Olivia believes the Polderman defendants are victims of false confessions, that the many stories of how they had committed the murders were just made up.
How hard of a hurdle is that to get past for a defense?
Yeah, false confession is really, really difficult because the public does not agree that people would confess to something that they didn't actually do. I think even for me, it was one of sort of my hardest mental hurdles to overcome in doing this work. And it's only because I've seen it so many times that I now do believe it.
As we've heard in other cold case investigations this season, just because someone says something happened doesn't make it true. Just because Stacy said Scott Baldwin had a bank bag stolen from the bike shop doesn't mean he actually did. Just because a woman claimed she'd had an affair with Patrick Mitchell and he'd confessed to her that he'd killed his girlfriend doesn't mean that woman actually knew him. Just because 3 jailhouse informants told the cold case team that Roberto Davanzo had confessed to them doesn't mean he actually had. And just because an eyewitness said he saw Highland Sterling at the crime scene with longish hair doesn't change the fact that Highland was completely bald. This same principle applies to confessions too. Someone saying they did a crime doesn't mean they did, if there isn't any other evidence to prove it. Because if the Polderman defendants actually did this murder, then how come none of them knew what rooms in the house the victims were killed in? How come none of them knew how the victims were killed, or the weapons that were used? How come none of them even knew where the Polderman house was located? And how is it there's absolutely no physical evidence linking any of the 5 to the crime scene? 4 of the Polderman defendants did confess during interrogations, and some of them, allegedly, also confessed to jailhouse informants and to acquaintances. But those confessions contradicted each other wildly. They didn't even name the same people. So why were detectives so sure it was the 5 they arrested who were responsible? We asked Detective Rich Madison what he thought. There's others who confessed. There's others who were said to be there that don't end up in the mix. Why this grouping and not a different grouping? How'd you settle on those 5?
They were always together. They lived together. I don't remember how their names came up. I really don't at this point.
The 5 people convicted of killing the Poldermans were Joe Williams, Andrew Miller, Brandy Miller, Ben Platt, and Angela McConnell. At various points, they'd all lived together, off and on, at a house on Steger Street. 4 of the 5 were closely connected by marriage, family, and kids. Joe Williams' sister was married to Andrew Miller, who was the brother of Brandy Miller. And Joe used to date Angela McConnell. He considered her daughter to be his own, and Angela referred to Joe's mother as Mom. She often lived with his family. The 5th defendant, Ben Platt, was close friends with Joe Williams, though he didn't spend much time with the others.
Did you ever have any doubts that those 5...
No, I did not. No.
But that Vendeville may have been more involved.
Yeah.
Vendeville was Brandy Miller's boyfriend at the time, and had previously been considered the lead suspect in the case. The official story told at trial, though, is that Richard Vendeville was an innocent victim in all of this, that he had only ever become a suspect because the Polderman defendants had conspired together to frame him. Unofficially, however, a lot of detectives suspect that Vendeville might have been more involved in this case than he's saying. I don't understand how the Polderman 5 could have been there, but not Vendeville. It doesn't seem...
Polderman 5, I like that. Those kids were controllable, too. I mean, you can see Vendeville, just having his claws in them.
After watching some of those kids' interrogation videos, I have to agree with Madison. They were controllable. They weren't that hard to manipulate. The only Polderman defendant who never confessed to participating in the murders was Joe Williams.
Yeah, as you read, you'll see I never blamed anybody. I never said anybody did it, because nobody ever told me that they were involved.
Joe's co-defendants all did confess, though. They all accused other people as well. But why would they have confessed if they weren't actually guilty? Joe has had a lot of time to wonder about that.
I've been trying to figure out shit for 18 years now, I still don't know what to think or say or believe or fuck. I don't even understand how I got convicted. I don't understand if they didn't have nothing to do with it, why they would confess.
It can often be hard to understand why someone would falsely confess to a crime they didn't commit. But in the Polderman case, I actually don't think it's hard to understand at all.
Do you know what prisoner's dilemma is?
It's called Prisoner's Dilemma?
The prisoner's dilemma is a thought experiment. It asks, given certain conditions, would a rational actor confess to a crime? In the Polderman case, the detectives created a prisoner's dilemma where, if the defendants believed what the detectives told them was true, then the only rational choice was for them to confess. Because here were the terms of the dilemma that they set out. If none of the defendants confessed, they would all walk free. There's no other evidence to charge them with. But if any one of them did confess, then all the others who didn't would likely be convicted and sentenced to life in prison, while the confessor would only serve a short sentence, or maybe even no sentence at all. And then the detectives took this one step further. They lied to each of the defendants and told them, "Your co-defendants have already confessed. The game is already lost. Your only choice now is to confess too and get a deal, or to be the sucker who dies in prison." In the interrogation of Joe's co-defendant, Andrew Miller, you can hear the detectives lay out the stark terms that were being offered.
Ben's telling on Joe, and Joe's telling on Ben. Angela's telling on Brandy, Brandy's telling on Angela. Rich is telling on everybody. But you have a problem because you won't even fess up to that.
Because I didn't do it.
And I know that's a lie.
Andrew, I'm convinced that you were out there. You got to take care of yourself right now.
I know, but I don't have nothing to take care of.
Okay, Andrew.
I'm really serious,
I want
you
you
guys.
to come. The jury's going to take that and wipe their ass with it.
Why?
Because that's what juries do for lying motherfuckers. Everybody else has cut deals. That's going to cause problems. For you, in particular.
Bullshit.
A lot of people get prosecuted and go to jail for the rest of their life on bullshit.
Alright.
Okay?
Is that what you guys are trying to do to me or something?
Your defense attorney is going to say, "Motherfucker, you got a problem. You got a problem because these motherfuckers are telling on you." These people are all going to get deals. They're going to get a lower sentence than the people that are not telling on people. The accessory after the fact, okay, limitations are already wrote down on it. Nobody can be held culpable for cleaning cars, burning certain items out of the car, and all that type of stuff, okay?
The offer made to Andrew Miller was simple. All he had to do was confess to helping the others cover up the murders, confess to being an accessory after the fact. And because the statute of limitations had run out on that offense, he couldn't be charged with it. He could accuse the others and walk free. Or so the detectives told him anyway.
Accessory after the fact.
I'm not gonna sit there and when I didn't do something, they're gonna sit there and say, oh yeah, got some clothes and there's whatever.
Accessory after.
Yeah, even though I don't get in trouble for it. If I didn't do it, I'm not gonna say I done it. I had nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with it.
Okay, now you gonna stick with that?
I am. That's what I have no involvement in it.
Okay, if you stick with that, you're fucked.
Why?
If you stick with that,
I'm sticking because of my rules.
Because of what we know.
It's not the truth, Drew.
Here's the thing about the prisoner's dilemma that the Polderman defendants were offered. If the defendants believed the detectives, and they did, then whether they personally were innocent or guilty was irrelevant. The stakes were the same either way. Whether they had done the crime or not didn't change anything. The choice became, do you save yourself by claiming to know something about the murders? Or do you deny knowing anything at all and doom yourself to die in prison? You might be thinking to yourself right now, I'd never confess to a crime I didn't commit. But when the difference between you walking out of that interrogation room to go home and you never going home ever again is whether or not you're willing to say a few simple words, are you so sure you wouldn't say them?
When you're on the way, you're doing fucking life in prison. Andrew, then you'll believe me. If you were involved in a portion of this, tell us.
I haven't been involved in any of it.
Okay, it's important.
I know it's important, and I want to do anything I can to clear anything up.
About 6 hours later, Andrew Miller did confess.
To understand how the Polderman defendants were arrested in 2007, we have to go back 5 years to 2002, when Richard Vendeville was arrested for breaking into a garage and stealing a purse. Because Vendeville got caught, he had the victim's credit cards and driver's license in his pockets. But when they tried to question him, Vendeville just kept saying over and over again, "I need to talk to Detective Workema from the Cold Case Squad. Hey, I need to talk to Detective Workema from the Cold Case Squad. I've got info on a murder." Vendeville had traded information for favors before, and he was hoping to do it again. So Cold Case Detective Mike Workema came out to speak to him. Here's Kevin reading a portion of his report on what Vendeville said.
Richard Vendeville stated that he had information that could break the Polderman case wide open. Richard stated that he picked Joe Williams up close to the homicide on the day of the homicide and believes Joe Williams has involvement in the homicide, as well as another person who has confessed to him. Richard stated he didn't want to talk any further on the case until the prosecutor was involved in giving him some type of immunity.
So, why would Vendeville tell Detective Workema this story? Well, 2 reasons. We know from interviews with other inmates at the jail that while there, Vendeville had been telling them about the recently announced $20,000 reward in the Polderman case, and how he believed he could exchange information about a homicide to get a deal on his burglary charges and reward money. And as for why he was accusing Joe Williams, well, Vendeville was really unhappy with him at the time.
What made you say that Rich thought Brandy and I were sleeping together back then? That's what the police said, too.
Because Rich said it.
That's Joe Williams speaking to his mother, Barb, on a recorded jail call in 2007. Joe's mother had been very close to Brandy Miller, and she knew Vendeville, so she'd heard the talk before about Vendeville's jealousy of Joe.
Yeah, because Rich was always questioning me. How come Brandy looks at you and smiles? Why is Brandy so sweet to you? Why are you so sweet to her? You know, but it wasn't saying sweet. Are you fucking her? Why Brandy's always nice to you, always worried about you? I'm like, no, I ain't fucking her, dude. You better not be.
Richard Vendeville has often been described as paranoid, but it turns out he was right about this one.
And then when we found out, he got pissed.
In fact, Joe Williams didn't know it until he was charged in the Polderman case. But Vendeville had accused Joe of all kinds of crimes after his arrest in May 2002, not just the Polderman murders. He also claimed it was Joe who had actually committed the burglary Vendeville was in jail for. Vendeville had merely been the lookout, he said. Joe told us there's no truth to any of that. So you weren't breaking into houses like Vendeville claims?
No.
Why do you think he said you two were doing that together?
I have no idea why he would say we were doing them together. Rich and I didn't get along. We never liked each other. We just associated because of, like, ties, I guess, family ties. I would describe it because Brandy and Andrew were brother and sister, and he was over there a lot partying with Andrew.
Richard Vendeville's plan to implicate Joe Williams ended up backfiring. After hearing from Vendeville, Workema went to speak to Vendeville's girlfriend, Brandy Miller, to try and verify Vendeville's story. And at first, she actually backs him up. Oh yeah, she tells Workema, Vendeville told me too that he had information about the Polderman case. He's interested in the reward. But then things between Vendeville and Brandy start getting messy. Like, really messy. It's not clear if it's because of Brandy's new relationship with Joe, but either way, Brandy and Vendeville both start accusing each other of all kinds of things. Vendeville says Brandy is abusing their son and gets Child Protective Services involved. Brandy says it was actually Vendeville who killed the Poldermans. In fact, she's the one who drove him out there that day. And oh yeah, He confessed to her that he killed those old people. We don't have a recording of Brandy's 2002 interviews, but here's her testifying at one of the Polderman trials about how she'd accused Vendeville of the murders.
I said that I went out there and I dropped him off and he was going to go look for marijuana. And that basically I drove around for a while. I came back and I seen him come out behind a tree and he was covered in blood.
The end result of all these back and forth accusations was Richard Vendeville became the prime suspect in the Polderman murders. But he wasn't charged. The case against him fell apart when Brandy recanted. Here's Brandy testifying at one of the Polderman trials when asked to explain why, in 2002, she'd accused Richard Vendeville of killing the Poldermans.
You made a statement, in fact, implicating Richard Vendeville, is that right?
Yes.
Why, in May of 2002, make the statement that you had dropped Richard off in the area?
I wanted to get back at him. After I had our child, the guy beat me, stalked me, was very violent, dragged me down as a person, he put me through a lot of things. I made up a story that myself and Richard Vendeville at the time went out to the Polderman's house and that he did it.
So because he was a bad boyfriend, you put a triple homicide on him?
Yes, I did.
Richard Vendeville recanted too. Here's what was written in the police report.
Vendeville says he told the police about picking up Joe out near the Polderman's house, but said that was a lie. He said that he made it up for a chance on getting probation on his charges and for the reward money.
With Brandy recanting, Vendeville couldn't be charged in the Polderman case. But he was still in jail for the burglary, and he was charged with home invasion first degree. He was convicted and sentenced to 20 to 40 years in prison. But that wasn't the end of the Polderman case.
This is Lieutenant Workman, Detective Sergeant Rich Madison. We're about to make contact with Brandy Miller regarding the Polderman homicide.
The Polderman case went unsolved, but for 5 years, Richard Vendeville had remained the lead suspect. And in January 2007, after taking over the case, the cold case team went to speak to Brandy Miller once again. Prior to Vendeville's arrest in 2002, he'd been Detective Workema's cold case informant, but now Vendeville is the cold case suspect that Workema's hoping to arrest.
And I know because I spent a whole lot of time with him, as you know. Right. He's a very dangerous person.
The case against Vendeville had stalled out 5 years earlier when Brandy recanted. To make a case against him now, the cold case team will need Brandy's help. They need her to unrecant and go back to the statement she made in 2002 about Vendeville going to the Polderman's house and coming back covered in blood. But Brandy tells them none of that actually happened.
Honest to God, I don't know anything. And if I did, I would come straight forward the first time.
You did come forward.
But it was a lie.
Oh, was it?
Yes, it was.
You told.
This is when the prisoner's dilemma begins for Brandy. The detectives tell her that they know what she said in 2002 was the truth, because Joe Williams told them she'd confessed to him. She had told him everything.
I never said anything like that. No.
I was willing to testify, take the stand and say you did.
Yeah. We know the whole story.
Yeah. He put you right there.
The detectives are lying to Brandy here. They did talk to Joe, that part's true, but Joe didn't tell them anything about Brandy confessing to him. But Brandy doesn't know that.
I'm telling you, in front of a jury, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. It puts you in a situation without a question. But you are important to us.
But I don't know anything.
In this interview, Workema told Brandy that if the detectives wanted to, they could consider her 2002 statement to be a murder confession. Brandy said she'd been an accomplice to a murder Vendeville committed, which makes her guilty of murder too, potentially. But they don't want her as a suspect, they tell her. They'd rather have her as a witness. And by the end of the interview, Brandy relents. She tells the detectives what they want to hear. Vendeville killed the Poldermans. Only, the detectives tell her that's not enough now. They now believe 2 people committed the murders, so they need Brandy to accuse someone else, too.
You took 2 people out there that day. We already know that.
The second person, Ben?
Ben is Ben Platt. He was 20 years old at the time of the murders, and he's close friends with Joe Williams. After the cold case team tells Brandy that they believe Ben Platt was out there with them when she drove Vendeville to the Polderman house, Brandy confirms for them, yes, Ben was there with us too.
This is gigantic, this is big.
I don't want to get in trouble.
With her 3 boys in the room playing around her, Brandy tells the detectives, I just don't want to get in trouble.
You got your kids. This was a big hump I wanted to get you over.
With Brandy's story changing yet again, the detectives moved on to their new suspect, Ben Platt. When we spoke to Ben, we asked him about Brandy Miller and why she might have accused him of murder.
We never talked, really. She was with a guy named Richard Vanderbilt, and he was a really jealous guy that didn't want anybody around her, so she was never around when he wasn't there, and she wasn't really allowed to even speak to other guys. I didn't really like Richard. I've never cared for that guy. He always just kind of struck me as off, so.
Ben says he didn't really get along with Richard and didn't even really know Brandy. But when the detectives came to interrogate him, he too confessed. He said the 3 of them had gone out to the Polderman's house that day.
Did you do it?
No, absolutely not. The thing is, people usually, believe if you've been charged, you're guilty, and that's just how it is, so.
Mm-hmm. And your case is complicated by the fact there are numerous confessions.
Have you watched the interrogation tapes or anything?
No, I wish. I've not gotten those tapes.
Well, if you get a chance to watch that, you'll see.
Ben's interrogation lasted for over 16 hours. We don't have a recording of it, but the cold case team laid out the prisoner's dilemma once again. Brandy's already confessed everything to us, they told him. You're screwed. If you deny you did this, then we'll charge you with murder too. But Ben had a possible way out. Because one thing the cold case team did when interrogating the Polderman defendants was to tell them about a recent high-profile case. A guy named Randy Britton had helped someone move a body, and in exchange for testifying against him, Randy only got 1 year in jail. If Ben didn't want to die in prison, he just needed to be Randy Britton.
He told me the only way I could go home is if I admitted to this and I gave up Rich. So I let you give me a little bit of stuff, and I said everything that way I would get it nowadays one day.
That's from Ben's 3rd interrogation, 1 week after his first. In this interrogation, Ben repeats his prior confession about how him and Rich Vendeville and Brandy all went out to the Poldermans, and how, after Vendeville had killed them all, Ben had gone inside and helped move the bodies. But the detectives try to get more details from him about exactly what happened.
Maybe you've already seen Rich assault Mr. Polderman, so stuff started to hit the fan. And if he's inside and you see this van coming up the driveway, that had to really increase the pucker factor for you. So I think that van arriving would really stick in your mind.
I just said, I'm a loss.
Most of Ben's interview is full of incredibly long pauses. Just due to time, we're going to clean up those pauses, but they never go away. As you hear Ben in this interrogation, remember that he's actually pausing for long stretches before almost all of his answers. Sometimes taking as long as 60 seconds before he comes up with an answer. Ben told us that's because he was trying to figure out what story he was supposed to be saying, because he had no idea what had actually happened.
If you could watch it, you would see, like, I didn't even have anything to tell them until they gave me something. I was able to, like, they were basically spoon-feeding me the story the whole time.
Most of the interrogation isn't even Ben speaking. It's just the detectives talking about the crime scene and him responding sporadically.
Just tell us in a very short version what you seen when you first walked in. What did you see as far as where the bodies were at?
It happened so quick, I can't remember when I seen the first one or not.
And then the lady, the younger of the two, she was
by the top of the stairs. Because I don't remember stepping over or anything, so.
Okay, so as he told us that he helped Rich carry Mr. Polderman out of that back bedroom.
Right.
And eventually, after moving Mr. Polderman down, he went back upstairs and helped him carry the younger of the two women down.
I want to pause for a moment here. This detail about how Ben and Vendeville carried Mr. Polderman's body into the basement while Anna Lewis's body was at the top of the stairs might seem insignificant, but it's not. It's so wildly wrong, so impossible, that I can't understand how the detectives heard it and didn't know instantly Ben's story was a lie. That he has no idea what he's talking about here. First of all, Mr. Polderman was not killed upstairs. He was killed in the basement. His throat was cut and he bled out there on the floor. Second of all, there's no way Anna's body was at the top of the stairs. There's hardly any blood on the floor there. There's a lot in the walls, but not the floor. And none of that blood belongs to Anna. She was stabbed twice with a large knife and her throat was cut. If her body had been there, her blood would have been there too. But it's not. And thirdly, Ben's story about them carrying Mr. Polderman into the basement while Anna's body is still there at the top of the stairs makes no sense at all if you look at the Polderman's home. The top of the basement stairs was a cramped nook about 4 feet wide maybe, between a kitchen, a bathroom, and a back door. And a vanity stool takes up some of that space. Anna was not a small woman, and if she had been there, she would have blocked the way through. The idea of two people carrying another body into the basement while she's lying there makes no sense at all. And if it did happen, Ben would have definitely remembered how difficult it was. Again and again throughout his confession, what Ben describes is at odds with the layout of the Polderman property and the known timeline of events. Almost nothing he says is consistent with either the crime scene or the prosecution's eventual theory of what actually happened. Ben didn't even know how the Poldermans were killed.
And you still don't remember any slash marks in their neck?
No.
Were you ever aware that had happened?
No, like I said, not until I spoke with you guys.
The few details Ben does know about the Polderman murders seem to have come from detectives. And there's so much more that he does not know at all. So much more that he just gets wrong. But if Ben was lying about being involved, then why? Why make up a story about moving bodies if he didn't know anything about it? Well, that's not too hard to understand, actually, based on what detectives were telling him. If Ben believed what they were saying was true, then he only had two options here. He could make up a story about helping Richard Vendeville move some bodies, and maybe get only a year in prison, just like Randy Britton had. Or he could continue to deny knowing anything about the crime. But since Brandy had already agreed to testify against him, he'd likely then be convicted and given a life sentence. So if Ben's goal was to not die in prison, then it's not a hard choice. And it's the same choice, regardless of whether he's guilty or innocent. Though if he's innocent, it does make it a lot harder to come up with a good story.
And that's all we're doing is just trying to match statements up. So, I mean, if you can't, it's okay. That's not going to
can't recall.
It's okay. Don't kill your brain on it.
This third interrogation, the one you're hearing now, began with Ben being asked to repeat the confession he'd made 1 week earlier about going to the Polderman house with Vendeville and helping him move the bodies after Vendeville had killed them. But then the interrogation took a bizarre turn.
I wonder how you'd felt if how Brandy might have said that Joe was out there that day.
What?
I want to know how you would feel if I told you that Brandy said that Joe was out there that day with you guys.
I don't know how to feel.
The detectives hit Ben with their new theory. We know Richard Vendeville is innocent, they told him. In fact, we know that you, Joe, and Brandy all conspired to frame him for the murders you committed. We don't know why the detectives were no longer interested in prosecuting Richard Vendeville, the man who had been the prime suspect for 5 years. That detail isn't recorded anywhere that we can find. But for some reason, the detectives no longer wanted Vendeville to be part of Ben's confession.
Listen, I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna tell him, Rich. Brandy said that she was fucking covering for Joe this entire fucking time. And gosh damn it,
They had a thing.
Yes, they were fuck buddies.
Rich was suspicious then.
As far as we can tell, the detectives were lying to Ben. There's no recorded interview with Brandy at this point where she said anything about lying about Vendeville to protect Joe. She was still telling detectives she drove Vendeville out to the Poldermans, and he came back covered in blood. But Ben didn't know that.
Don't try to deceive us. I can't risk my reputation on putting the wrong guy in prison. Look me in my fucking eye. Brandy does not want to lose the chance of losing her kids. She's crying and it's fucking Rich and all that. She was fucking lying to me, and I fucking just asked her flat up, and she told me it was fucking Joe.
If Brandy lies to us, the detectives told Ben, she'll go to prison and lose her children. She won't risk that. She will tell us what she needs to tell us to keep her kids. So you're screwed, Ben.
When you put a bra in a fucking lick like this, the bra's a fucking weak link every time, brother. It's in every goddamn rap song. Everybody knows. Don't put a fucking bra in. Bras are weak because they love their kids more than their men.
So is everything true other than that Rich is really Joe? Or is this whole thing kind of fabricated?
I know you hate me, I'm fucking good, but I'm throwing you a life buoy, man.
I hate myself right now. Honestly, I wasn't there, and that's the truth. I made this stuff up, I let you lead me into it, and let you give me little bits and pieces of information. I thought maybe you guys would have figured that out and just been like, what the hell?
What are you saying then?
Well, I'm saying, I let you lead me through the whole story. I was not there. I'm saying, my statement, I gave you that to try and save my life. It never struck you as odd that
he couldn't draw a picture of the inside of the house.
I couldn't draw a picture of the inside of the house. I couldn't tell you where the bodies were until you told me where the bodies were. There's a reason for that. I wasn't there. I was trying to save my ass because I didn't have no alibi. And I figured my best bet was to go for something, anything to keep me from doing the rest of my life in prison. That's the truth. I can't go through it and do that all over again. Okay, now I'm gonna put this guy here and you guys want me to start over and, change it up. I can't do it. I can't do it again.
Just 1 week earlier, the detectives had convinced Ben his only chance of ever going home was to accuse Richard Vendeville. But for reasons that we still don't understand, the detectives' focus changed suddenly. And now, Ben was told, his only hope of going home was to say Vendeville was innocent, and someone else was guilty instead.
And that's when I was like, I'm done playing your game.
But why did they change their mind about Vendeville?
I have no idea. They never explained it.
Ben recanted his confession, but that didn't matter. The fact he'd confessed to anything was enough to convict him, even though he confessed committing the crime with Richard Vandeville, and was charged instead with committing the crime with 4 other people. So the detectives moved on to the next defendant, Joe Williams. He too was presented with a prisoner's dilemma. Afterwards, he'd called home from jail to tell his family what had happened.
Thank you for using AT&T.
Hello?
Huh?
Yeah?
They're charging me with the fucking murders.
How, Joe, can they charge you?
I don't know, but they are. Brandy said she seen me with Brandy drove me and Ben out there and I had blood on me. And that's what Ben's saying too.
The detectives were lying to Joe. Ben had named Vandeville, not Joe, and then he'd recanted. But Joe didn't know that.
Man, they showed me fucking pictures of these people, man. It was the most horrific and graphic thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was real life shit.
Joe was not actually charged with the Polderman murders at that time. The detectives didn't have enough evidence yet, but Joe now knew they were after him. A couple of days later, he called home again and found out that Angela McConnell, his ex-girlfriend, was over at his mom's house. Joe's mom was like a second mother to Angela, and she often stayed there.
They're trying to charge me with this shit.
I know, I seen the fucking papers. I don't see how, Joe. How the fuck can they charge you with it?
Because Brandy said she seen me, that she drove me out there and I had blood on me when she picked me up.
No, that's not what she fucking told me. She told me that she drove Rich out there, and when he come out of the house, he was covered in blood.
Well, now she's saying it was Ben and I that she drove out there. See, originally she said she drove Rich and somebody else out there.
I will fucking go to court. Like I told your mom, if you get fucking hung for this shit, I swear to God, I will kill Brandy. I will find a way to fucking kill Rich.
Well, that's what they're saying. And shit, they want to talk to you, too. I didn't kill them people, Angela.
I know you didn't, Joe. I didn't either, and they seem to think I had something to do with it, too.
At the time of this phone call with Joe, the detectives thought Angela had maybe known something about the murders, maybe helped after with the cleanup, but she hadn't been a suspect. But then the detectives talked to Richard Vandeville, and he told them, actually, Angela committed the murders too. I saw her drive to the Polderman house with the others. So the detectives went back to Angela. It was her turn to be presented with the prisoner's dilemma. After the interrogation, she called home from jail and told her husband what had happened.
But listen, this is what's going on. Ben and Joe are admitting to going out there, but Joe's saying I was with him.
No, listen.
And
this is bullshit. Because they would have charged you for that. They don't have nothing. Don't admit to nothing.
I'm not admitting to nothing. I don't know, but I'm so scared.
Don't let it scare you.
Angela's husband was right. This was all bullshit. In reality, neither Joe nor Ben had ever mentioned Angela, and Brandy hadn't either. Not yet, anyway. But Angela didn't know that. And she confessed. She told the detectives all about the night she, Brandy, Joe, Ben, and Andrew all drove out to the Polderman house, and how, when they got there, all the lights were off and everything was dark. So they had thought no one was home, which didn't make any sense. The murders had been committed in the middle of the day, in broad daylight, but Angela didn't know that either.
I don't know, I'm just so scared now.
So Angela confessed to going inside the Polderman house, but soon she recanted. She told her husband she'd made the whole thing up. And she was pretty sure the others had made up their stories too.
None of us were there, baby. None of us. They can go to fucking... That's what I tried telling you. Swear to God on my kids' life. We weren't there. None of us were.
So somebody's telling a whole different fucking story.
I don't care what they're telling them.
For months, Angela went back and forth, telling the detectives one version of a confession, then disavowing it, only to go back and tell the detectives a whole new confession. When she found out, though, that Brandy had taken a plea deal that would give her 15 years, maybe even less, in exchange for testifying against the others, Angela decided to take a plea deal too.
Obviously, we're getting together today based on the plea agreement that you agreed to yesterday to be completely truthful from that time forward. Okay. So we're just want to make sure that you understand you got to be completely truthful.
Detective Madison told us about how both Brandy and Angela had been given an out on the murder one charges.
And those girls, both Brandy and, what was the other girl?
Angela?
Yeah, she had an out. I mean, Brandy was given the deal. And Angela had, I think it was, man.
She gave it up. She got the deal and she gave it up. She wouldn't testify.
Angie.
Yeah, she had the deal and she said, I was lying. I can't do this.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So she went to prison and died. I remember reading that. She killed herself.
Unlike Angela, Brandy did not withdraw her plea agreement. She did change her story about 20 different times, though, to adapt to the detectives' changing theories about the crime. And at trial, Brandy testified she'd been lying anytime she claimed she didn't know anything about the murders. But in letters she wrote from jail, she said something very different. Somehow, she seemed convinced that this problem they were all in was only temporary. Here's a letter she wrote to Joe's mom.
Sorry, sorry, sorry. I don't want anyone to be mad or hate me after all of this is over. I just got so tired of all the BS. How is Joe doing? Hope he is okay. You know I miss him and love him too. A trap was set for me and I fell right into it. We are all going to be coming home soon because it is all a bunch of BS. I love you. Everyone just needs to keep hanging on and the storm will pass. P.S. We will be all home soon.
We tried multiple ways to reach Brandy for comment, but so far she has not responded. Day by day, statement by statement, the cold case team built its case. Brandy confessed, then Ben, then Angela. They weren't done yet, though, because Richard Vendeville had told them he'd seen 5 people go to the Polderman's house that day, and there were still 2 to go, Joe and Andrew. Joe's sister, Nikki, told him what she'd heard about the case the detectives were building against him.
They brought Rich. Rich is up there somewhere. And Rich saying he followed behind you guys because he was jealous of you and Brandy, afraid you and Brandy were going to get together. It's a mess, Joe. The shit's hitting the fan big.
I wish the police would know that they're digging in the wrong direction. Andrew and I didn't have nothing to do with this fucking murders.
I know you guys didn't.
I mean, yeah, we're both thieves and drug addicts and liars and, but that's all.
Again and again, the detectives kept going back to Joe Williams, telling him all his friends and family had already turned on him, and that if he didn't turn on them in return, then they'd know it's because he's the real killer. Maybe you're the one that forced the knife into Anna's heart, one detective told him. Joe responded, I thought they were beaten. We don't have the recordings, but you can feel the detective's frustration bleeding through the pages of the transcripts. One detective tells him, fuck, we've been talking for fucking 14 hours one day. We talked for another fucking 7 hours last night. We talked for 4.5 hours today. But you can't get it through your fucking skull? Nothing? No matter how many times, though, Joe told the detectives that he wasn't involved in any murder, the detectives wouldn't believe him. And Joe told us he'd spent the last 18 years since then hoping someone finally would.
I would die for people to believe me and to understand, to take an innocent person, anybody in the whole entire world, I would give my life up for them to live in my shoes for 10 minutes inside here, knowing what I know about my innocence, just so they could see and feel the agony. I'd give my life to prove my innocence.
Shortly after Angela McConnell was arrested, Andrew Miller was arrested too. When Joe next called home, his sister, who was Andrew's wife, gave him the news.
Andrew's been arrested.
What's Andrew in jail for?
The Polderman? Brandy told the cops he was here. That he was there.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Why would Brandy say Andrew was there?
I don't know. He don't know. He's scared shitless right now.
Andrew is Brandy Miller's brother. Brandy had not initially implicated her brother in any way. Not in any of her first 5 or 6 confessions, anyway. But later, after Vanderville had accused Andrew and made him a suspect, the detectives go back to Brandy again. Richard Vanderville's already told us everything, they tell her. Tell us the real story. So Brandy changed her story, again, and told them she'd driven with Ben, Joe, Angela, and Andrew out to the Polderman house. They'd all gone inside while she waited out in the car. And when they came back, they were bloody. In letters she wrote home from jail to their mom and dad, Brandy explained her decision to accuse her brother.
Hey, Mom. You really know what it comes down to. Him or me. If I do what I am doing, he goes away and I come home someday. I surely didn't have 3 kids just so someone else can raise them. I'm not proud of what I'm doing, but my boys need me, Mom. Nobody will ever understand how it feels to be in the spot I'm in. So I'm sorry, but I pick myself and my boys over my brother. Is that wrong? P.S. Sorry the ink is smeared. I was crying. But I'm okay. Smiley face. Based on the statement that Vanderville had given while under immunity, the detectives interrogated Andrew. He was told it was in his best interest to go along with Vanderville's story. Because Vanderville had given him a way out, they say. Vanderville said he was less responsible than the others.
The bridge laid it out for me. I don't know what your role is, other than what Rich told me it was. Because Richard says that you were his soon-to-be baby's uncle, and he was looking out for you on that event.
Bullshit. Oh my God, I've heard it all.
So I've heard it all. You gotta help us clear this up.
Hold on, I don't. Wait, telling you.
We talked about the cleaning up of the car, the cleaning up of the truck.
I'm just fucking start lying again?
No, we want the truth.
The detectives told Andrew that they already knew all about how, after the murders, he'd gone to Vanderville and asked for advice. How do we get away with this? Andrew asked him. What do we do? So Andrew's choice was simple. If he admitted to cleaning up the crime scene, to being an accessory after the fact, then the detectives couldn't charge him with anything. The statute of limitations had run out, they assured him. Or Andrew could admit nothing and die in prison.
Because everybody is around you with their fucking pants down and pissing on you still. And you love it.
I love it.
Do you love it?
No, I don't.
Okay, then fucking wipe the piss off you and start fucking talking.
I don't know nothing to say, though.
Then you got a fucking problem, then. You got a problem. If you decide to come clean it with me here today, you will be back at your house this afternoon. Relaxing.
Cleaning what?
What he's trying to say is this is the calm before the storm of everything that's going to be hitting soon.
Okay.
So it's like Andrew needs to take care of Andrew.
We only have a recording of the first 2 hours of this interrogation, but by hour 7, Andrew had signed a confession. It detailed how, after the murders, Andrew had gone to Vanderville for advice on what they should do. On Vanderville's instructions, Andrew went to the store and bought Kaboom bathroom cleaner and a gallon of bleach. He grabbed a bucket and a scrub brush, and then he, Joe, and Ben all returned to the Polderman house, where they spent an hour cleaning away every fingerprint and every trace of DNA they left behind. Just like Richard Vanderville had said to the detectives. He had told them he'd explained to Andrew how to clean the crime scene perfectly, how to ensure no trace of the 5 would ever be found there. And that's why no DNA or fingerprints from the 5 Polderman defendants had been found at the scene. Vanderville also told detectives that he'd explained to the 5 defendants how to leave decoy DNA behind to fool investigators. Making a turn, he'd called it. And Andrew, in his confession, confirmed that they'd followed Vanderville's instructions and, quote, planted evidence with other people's fingerprints close to the victims. So that's why an unknown person's fingerprints were found at the crime scene. And why, in the garage where Marinus Polderman had fought with his attacker, an unknown man's DNA was found on a broken piece of rubber glove, mixed in with Mr. Polderman's blood. Because criminal mastermind Richard Vendeville had told them to leave fake evidence behind, to send detectives looking in the wrong direction.
Like Ben Platt and Angela McConnell, Andrew Miller recanted his confession. Here's him on the phone with his wife after he was arrested.
I had me fucking scared and saying, and all these people are pointing their fingers at you. You know, so fucking...
I was supposed to let him point it.
Well, I didn't. You know, I fucking started making up shit. They're all fucking telling me, giving me, all the answers and shit. Any stupid fucking idiot could have fucking made up a fucking story.
That's the way they work, honey. They'll lie to you, they'll make you promises, they'll do whatever they can do.
Oh, it's just made fucking lies, dude.
I know that.
With Andrew's confession, the detectives finally had enough to file murder charges against all 5 of the defendants.
I want to die in prison for something I didn't fucking do.
We're gonna get you out. You didn't do anything, and I'm gonna prove it. I promise that with all my life. I will prove it. You didn't do nothing, and you're not going to get railroaded for something you didn't.
I'm already railroaded. Don't you guys get it? I'm a fucking scapegoat. I'm a goddamn fucking sacrificial lamb.
The cold case team started out trying to solve Kalamazoo's most notorious cold case by charging Richard Vendeville. But instead, they ended up believing Vendeville's claim that he knew who really had committed the murders, and they charged the 5 people he accused. Joe Williams, who never confessed, was convicted. So were Ben Platt, Andrew Miller, and Angela McConnell, who all did confess but then recanted. By either not confessing or recanting, they all lost the prisoner's dilemma. All are serving life in prison, except for Angela, who committed suicide in 2023. Brandy Miller took a plea. She only served 12 and a half years and was released in 2020. But she didn't win the prisoner's dilemma either. She just lost less than the others. Because when she initially confessed, she did so thinking it meant she wouldn't have to go to prison. But that wasn't the case at all. We still don't know what happened to the 3 members of the Polderman family who were killed, but I am confident it is not what any of the Polderman defendants described in their many confessions, because none of their stories match what was found at the crime scene. But even though the details in the case do not add up, when judges and juries hear that 4 people confessed to a murder, the details stop mattering. And so do all the unanswered questions. Unanswered questions like, what really happened at the Polderman house that day? And how did Richard Vendeville go from informant to suspect and back to informant again? So add another 5 cold case convictions to the list of cases we needed to investigate further. Before we close, though, a note to our listeners. We're taking a week off to do more investigating. But on Monday, March 30th, we'll be back with a new episode. It will put us in Kalamazoo, where we'll keep looking for answers to what really happened at the bike shop, and how it all went so wrong for Scott.
Next time on Proof.
You may have your focus on your suspect and continue to build the case that you believe that that individual may be involved, but just don't eliminate everything.
It was about 6:45 in the morning, and it was summertime, and it was unusual to see a car in the parking lot that early. I don't expect to see the owner there at that time or anybody else.
Their aggressive tactics, with this case that I was intimately involved in, it seemed like once they knew who he was, what he was in prison for, it was just a matter of find the trail that leads us there.
You've been listening to Proof, a podcast by Red Marble Media, in association with Glassbox Media. Send us your questions and comments at proofcrimepod@gmail.com. We'll respond during our bonus episodes, Proof Sidebar, on Thursdays. Kevin Fitzpatrick is our executive producer. Our theme music is by Ramiro Marquez. Audio production for this episode is by Michael Ulatowski, Michael Alfano, and Jesus Orbaez. Our social media manager is Leanne Cook. And thank you to our sponsors who make this podcast possible. Follow us everywhere with the handle @ProofCrimePod and on our website, proofcrimepod.com. That's all for this week. Thanks so much for listening.